Good day and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the Voice of Reason. So, in today's episode of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network, we're going to continue the coverage of the ongoing fighting that is taking place inside of Ethiopia. First, we are going to have a look at what I would call the Central Front. The Central Front would be located in towards southern Tigray, facing operations that would be towards Gondar and obviously Debark. The Western Front obviously would be more towards the western portion of Tigray, centered around the city of Humora, and then obviously the eastern or the southeastern front would be located for all areas which would be in the vicinity south of Alamata, Weldia, and so forth. So first, let's look at what is occurring right now along the south central front. So we are hearing reports that there is intense fighting north of Debark. And it would appear that the Tigrayan Defense Forces are indeed making advances with the goal of capturing the town or the city of Debark. This objective could be a very tough nut to crack, and we'll kind of zoom in and we'll see why. So just north of Debark, obviously, we have some rather significant terrain features, as you can see. And there are the approaches to Debark, if you're coming from the north, is covered in very high mountainous terrain. And I would assume that the Amhara militias have attempted to set up strong points covering the approaches to Debark along these key terrain features, and are fortifying these mountains and approaches where they can shoot down onto roads and obviously prevent the TDF from moving south. Now, with that being said, the Tigrayan Defense Forces are very experienced in operating in this sort of terrain, and again, we are hearing reports that the TDF are indeed outflanking and maneuvering in a manner that would put them in a position to seal off the city. There are actually reports that indicate Tigrayan defense reconnaissance units have actually penetrated some of this mountainous terrain and have actually entered the suburbs of Debark, or the outlying areas of Debark. Now, has that happened? I cannot say for 100% certain, but there are reports coming in that reconnaissance units of the TDF, the more specialized units, have penetrated some of these mountain ranges and are in the process of enveloping Debark, setting up where they can seal off the city. There also continues to be fighting pockets of Amhara resistance in the town of Zarima. That continues. Now, I would reasonably believe that an all-out assault on Debark would not occur until the TDF has consolidated its lines of control and has absolutely control of the town of Zarima fully, and all pockets of resistance have been removed. Now, at the same time, with that also being said, it is possible that a decision has been made within the TDF to go ahead and proceed and attempt to seize control of Debark prior to the Amhara militias raising further forces to reinforce that town. and that is another subject I'll segue into right now. There is a tremendous recruitment effort that is going on inside of the Amhara region, inside of Gondar. The Amhara militias are attempting to increase its troop levies, and we continue to hear reports that up to 2 million personnel could be recruited. And again, that is bluster, it is talk. It's very difficult to recruit that kind of that size of a force and then put them into the field. We would have to kind of get a good situational awareness on the kind of supplies that the Amhara militias have access to. Are they able to provide ammunition and rifles to all these militia units that are being placed into the field? I mean, in some cases, we've actually seen some of these militia units operating with machetes, and not all are in fact armed. And then the question is the Ethiopian federal government handing over supplies? Are they handing over limited quantities of heavy weapons to the Amhara militias? Now, obviously, the Ethiopian federal government has plenty of AK-47 variant rifles and small arms that they can probably supply these Amhara militias. Now, heavy weaponry is a little bit different. The Ethiopian army does not have an unlimited store of tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery. The army is not made up of that kind of force. While it can field, over 100 main battle tanks, depending on repair issues and so forth, and how many have been recently destroyed. It just doesn't have that kind of capability to field a full strength mechanized or full motorized divisions. Most of these divisions are what I would define as semi-motorized, meaning many of the troops are transported via bus, dropped off several kilometers near the battlefield, and then they approach on foot. And that's kind of what we're seeing, and especially in the terrain north of Gondar, that what we can expect. Again, very mountainous, very hilly, and it is going to be an infantry battle. And that is what the TDF excel in, especially in the battles that occurred in central Tigray. Many of these units are now migrating their way south towards various objectives in the Amhara region and obviously in the Afar region as well. There continues to be operations on the western front near Hamora. Now, we've heard reports on other channels that the Tigrayan Defense Force operation was stalled by heavy resistance. So let me address that. I do not believe that the TDF moved its full combat capacity in a westerly direction to actually make an effective assault along this western front. That has not occurred yet. The TDF has sent forces west, but not the kind of forces that would be needed to actually seize control of western Tigray. That could come, or the Amhara militias or the Ethiopian and Eritrean militaries could, in fact, capitulate these areas as the TDF moves further south into the Amhara region, possibly threatening Gondar and even Addis Ababa. On the southeastern front, again, fighting continues. There seems to be again a consolidation near and around the town of Weldia. Which makes sense as further forces are brought forward, further reserves are trained up and then brought forward to conduct operations. Obviously, this could be a protracted campaign. It could be a very swift campaign as well, but at the same time, the forces involved, the TDF, have to prepare for a protracted campaign. And that is probably what they're doing. You are also seeing a complete breakdown of law and order kind of in the Afar region, where various paramilitary groups, militia groups, rogue civilian operations are really taking effect on the infrastructure in Afar, blocking roadways, transportation hubs, and that is having a great impact on the Ethiopian state in terms of being able to move trade and supplies and goods from Djibouti into Ethiopia proper. And that is right now being stopped because of the operations launched by the TDF into the Afar region. There is also obviously activity along the Eritrean border. Both the TDF and the Eritreans seem to be positioning themselves. We've heard reports that there are some TDF units moving towards the Eritrean border. I just do not believe it would be prudent to open up a northern front against the Eritreans before the southern front is rectified, and that has not happened yet. Is there an opportunity to engage the Eritreans after the southern issue has been resolved? I would say yes, that could be the case. However, that is not the current case, and operations I see will continue. And right now, the focus seems to be on seizing the city of Debark, and that would obviously open up operations. And the one of the main prizes that the TDF could be looking at, which is of course Gondar, and that is probably a ways off if in fact it becomes an objective, and that would be contingent upon the level of resistance, obviously, that the Amhara militias are able to put up. But it would appear that total mobilization is underway in the Amhara region, and that could pose a problem for the TDF as time continues. But how effective that mobilization is, how trained these forces are, that is another question to be answered. These forces could be untrained and not very well equipped and simply sent to their demise in these rugged hills facing the experienced and very well trained, very well motivated Tigrayan defense forces. That's all I have for today. We will continue to monitor the situation. Again, the war continues. Very heavy fighting on multiple fronts. And again, as information comes in, I will absolutely report it. Have a great day, everybody.